Oh yeah, all the climate stuff. I love all the climate stuff. Of course, there was a big hurricane in Florida just a few days ago. Pretty brutal. It was a Category 4. It wiped out a few beach towns on the west coast of Florida, which happens from time to time. It's actually, I think, the fourth most dangerous or most damaging hurricane in Florida. But if you watch CNN, you got Don Lemon on there, who's like, well, this is all due to climate change.
So listen, I'm just trying to get that. You said you want to talk about climate change, but what effect does climate change have on this phenomenon that is happening now? Because it seems these storms are intensifying. That's the question here.
I don't think you can link climate change to any one event.
Okay.
On the whole, on the cumulative, climate change may be making storms worse, but to link it to any one event, I would caution against that.
Okay. Well, listen, I grew up there, and these storms are intensifying. Something is causing them to intensify.
Well, that was great because the guy is like, well, this happens from time to time. We could talk about climate change another time if you want, but this really has nothing to do with it. But Don Lemon's like, well, I used to live around there, and these storms are definitely getting bigger. Well, it wasn't even the #1 storm with the most damage that's ever hit Florida. There's been numerous others, decades ago, really. So what happened then, Don? Oh, you can't talk about that kind of stuff. Well, let's go to Joe Biden. He'll know what to do during this really bad hurricane in Florida and give you all the best tips.
A vital part of preparing for hurricane season is to get vaccinated now. Everything is more complicated if you're not vaccinated in a hurricane or a natural disaster hits.
Well, I don't know, Joe. I think if you lived on the west coast of Florida over the last week, probably the most important thing would be just to get out of there, especially if you lived right on the ocean. But no, Joe's like, the most important thing is to get lethally injected. Because if you don't, everything gets more complicated. You can't make this stuff up. Like, they're actually saying these things. Meanwhile, in the UK, they have like a new Greta, and she called into some TV show or something. And she was telling people, we all got to stop traveling, because this is what they actually teach them in the government indoctrination camps, which they're starting to do in the US now in California. It's actually like a course on how the humans are destroying the world through climate change. And so, you got like 13-year-old kids, they don't know any better. Even Greta, she probably had no idea what was going on when she first started talking about all this stuff, but her Antifa parents sold her to the system. And so this young girl in the UK calls in, she's telling them that you really shouldn't even travel anymore to save the earth. And forget about even going, like the worst thing you can do really is take a trip to Fiji. And then the TV show announcer was actually really good. And she goes, what was your last trip? Anyone want to guess?
For example.
So we would have to apply to have approved events to be able to fly for.
Well, that's one thing that you could look at doing.
Am I allowed to go to Fiji? Is that necessary?
In the current climate crisis, I don't think that that's necessary.
When was the last time you were on a plane?
I'm not sure. Maybe a few months ago, to be honest.
Where'd you go?
Fiji.
Izzy! Izzy! Don't you care about the climate, Izzy?
Of course I care about the climate.
Not enough. You went to... You went to Fiji. Izzy, come on, mate. Are you serious? Are you serious, Izzy?
Well, it's pretty
Are you still there?
It is pretty ironic, but to be honest, it's not really a trip that I wanted to go on, but I can't really get out of it because
Why'd
my
you
parents wanted to
go? Why'd you go?
My parents wanted to go.
Izzy!
I didn't want to go.
How are you embarrassed that your parents did that to the planet and then forced you to do it as well?
Of course I'm not embarrassed.
Did you have a terrible time?
Not really. I didn't have to do anything.
See, I'm sorry. Mate, listen, You're such a champion. I think you've got a brilliant future ahead of you. And are you doing another strike soon?
Yeah, well, we'll look to.
Good. We'll talk to you again and might get you back on the show.
Yeah, the worst thing you can do is go to Fiji. What was your last trip? Oh, a few months ago to Fiji, but I didn't really want to go. So typical. So typical.